Hi, I'm Susan Gerhardt. I'm a soccer coach, a soccer player, and a soccer mom. And I urge you to vote for more studies. As a coach, I've witnessed increased headaches from the field. As a player, I've personally experienced a chemical sensitivity to a particular field in San Francisco. And as a mom, I've had a sort of heartbreaking experience just this week of I picked my son up from a very competitive 16-year-old soccer playing kid on one of San Francisco's best teams from a 3-hour scrimmage at Kimball Field, and he was covered in plastic blades of grass and rubber pellets. He subsequently fell ill, was hospitalized for 5 days. No known bacterial or viral cause. He's on the mend. I'm not saying the field caused it, but it was frightening. It was a very hot day with a lot of static electricity, and I'm concerned. I would love to see reports that deal with ingestion and those kinds of things. So, sorry for the
thank you.
emotion. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Yeah.
Barry Hermanson, San Francisco Green Party support.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Catherine Howard, a landscape architect. In addition to the groups you already know about, we do have support from the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club, the San Francisco Latino Democratic Club, and the Malibu Community Alliance. I do go out into the community a lot, and I have to say that every single meeting I've been to, support for this bill has been unanimous, and the overall response has been, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't we care? Why wouldn't we protect our kids? And why wouldn't we do a study and look at this stuff before we install anymore? Thank you.
Ma'am.
I'm Lodashi Fong, and I'm on the Sierra Club Bay Chapter Executive Committee and the Board of San Francisco Tomorrow. But more importantly, I'm the grandmother of a 9-year-old soccer player. And last summer, he told Grandma that he saw the goalie slide and the turf came up in front of him. So I would just like to remind all of us as good Americans who've seen the innovation and, you know, the new and improved. We came up with not only nuclear energy and plastic, but we haven't exactly had the length and breadth of wisdom to figure out what to do with the waste products. So I'm sure if we put our best and brightest minds with community support, the industry can find other ways of using some of these products, but not at the expense of our youth. And especially the younger the players are, the more they are at risk.
Thank you. Ma'am.
My name is Carolyn Cox, and I'm from the Center for Environmental Health in Oakland. And we had the honor of collaborating with the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, on the legal action related to lead in synthetic turf that the senator mentioned earlier. And I just wanted to tell a quick anecdote from that legal action. Shortly after we let the companies know that we were planning legal action, one of the companies contacted us and said, we want to meet with you. And they came all the way to Oakland and met with us. And what they said was, last week, we changed our synthetic turf. We took those lead-containing pigments that you're worried about out of the turf. We want to be a leader. And what that said to me was that, you know, there are companies that want to innovate. I think California is all about innovative business. And when we can use our legislative process to give companies an incentive to innovate, I think we should do that. I think that's what this bill does.
Thank you. Ma'am.
I'm Dorothy Nichols. I'm from San Francisco, and I'm a concerned citizen. And I think that before we actually put that stuff into our ground, and that we need to do a real good study, that it doesn't seem, I'm in support of this.
Ma'am.
My name is Jean Barish. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak. I'm a member of the steering committee of SF Ocean Edge, which is one of the signers in support of this, as well as a former board member of Action for Nature, an environmental organization that focuses on children and the environment. They also signed on in support of this. I'm also a research scientist and an attorney, and I've spent my entire career working in the areas of healthcare law, and consumer advocacy work. I'm here to urge you to please support this legislation. legislation. It's common sense. We need to protect the children. We need to put the protection of children in our environment first and foremost, and that is what SB 47 does. Please support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's hear from oppositions or no position on SB 47 as amended here.
Good morning, Nick Lapis with Californians Against Waste. We actually have an opposed unless amended position, and the current amendments don't address all of our concerns, so we are unfortunately opposed today. We're actually strongly supportive of doing a study. We appreciate the author's work on this. We do need a study. We clearly need a study. There have been a lot of studies done to date, I believe over 50. Of the ones I've reviewed personally, I haven't been able to find any sort of cancer risk from the use of crumb rubber. We'd love to go into that a little more detail and go through the studies. But at this point, whether or not the previous studies have shown to be safe or not, there clearly is a public concern, and we need to put the public at rest on this issue. And so we need to do a study. We need to do a good study. We need to pull no punches, look at every single issue that Senator Hill wants to look at and that the public wants to look at. Our concern comes in with the original moratorium, but also with now that's been removed, with the prohibition on Cal Recycle funding of this material. Given the fact that there hasn't been any evidence of the crumb rubber causing any sort of cancer impacts, we just think it's premature at this time to prohibit the funding of that material. Cal Recycle makes up a significant portion of the market in terms of these types of projects, and the impact on the industry would be irreparable if we stopped funding it with the state tire fee. At this point, we just haven't seen any sort of evidence to indicate that that makes sense, and until we've seen anything along those lines, we believe it's premature. Thank you.
Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg Herner on behalf of Field Turf and BAS Recycling. I want to thank Senator Hill. I know he cares about having a scientific foundation for decisions for our legislature. I mean, I've toured many scientific companies with him in his district. We've spent a lot of time together on scientific issues. And I'm pleased that our discussions and the review of the 51 studies and reports that have been done so far, in that he believed and he feels now that it's not necessary to put a moratorium in place, and they're not demonstrating that there's that risk. The studies have covered everything from environmental impacts to inhalation, to ingestion, to dermal contact, to allergic reactions. It's been very broad. Cal Recycle, as of March 1st, has indicated they're unaware of any new findings based on scientific study that link significant health impacts to the use of recycled crumb rubber products. So that's just 2 weeks ago that they put that statement out. However, because of the controversy generated by the media reports, they have said that they're going to initiate a study, and we fully support that and support the position of Californians Against Waste in that doing a comprehensive study. I should note that the media report that started this was actually a local NBC affiliate, and they also interviewed the team doctor, who said that there was no connection. When that report was aired on NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, the doctor's comments in that report were actually eliminated from that report. So I think that helped to drive this hysteria. The benefits of using crumb rubber fields, besides the performance aspects, are reduced injury rates, water conservation, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, increased playtime, reduced fertilizer or pesticide use. So there's extensive reasons why these fields have been promoted and why the grant program has recognized them as a safe way to recycle tires. One of the concerns, though, is that the definition only includes crumb rubber and synthetic materials. And one of the alternatives is a Nike grind, and one of the other one is a thermoplastic elastomer, or TPE. Nike grind does not use shoes. We're not recycling shoes. It's manufacturing waste from the production of shoes in China that is then ground up and imported to our state. and it's not reusable. The other, main alternative that's natural is cork. Comes from Portugal. There's, between those two alternatives, so you can do about 100 fields a year. There's 1,000 fields a year that go in nationally. So your other alternative is going to be the TPE, virgin plastic material from Europe. That's imported to California or the rest of the country to install these types of fields. It's really against California's thoughtful approach in developing this program and trying to deal with our waste tires that we would change our direction to try and use products that are not recyclable and are being imported from foreign countries and then have to be landfilled after one use. In addition, the Nike grind, which nobody realizes, has higher concentrations of aluminum, lead, strontium, zinc, and chrome. That's one of the alternatives that the introduction of this bill that local governments and districts have looked to going to, because it's Nike grind. It seems like it should be great. It has a great brand name, but that people do not look at the other aspects of it. Those other alternatives have a shorter life. Cork has to be wet down, so it doesn't have the same performance characteristics and it doesn't have the same conservation as crumb rubber. And you're going to have, with the loss of grants and other things, you're going to increase costs to schools and local governments for their fields and their playgrounds. This covers playgrounds as well. I just wanted to make sure that, this has been there has been quite a bit of controversy about this. We support the study. San Francisco has looked at this issue. Their Parks and Recs district, and they're moving forward with crumb rubber fields in Golden Gate Park because they want to increase the amount of playtime that the youth and other folks can get out there into the park and utilize the fields. And that, because of the limited space, they're not able to do that under the current situation.
So we're certain the bill as amended stops the subsidy for a 2-year period, so that it's there. It's not forever and ever. It's until the study is completed. Presumably, we have to pay for the study.
Through the tire fund.
Yeah, right. That's
right.
Hope where we go with that.
So,
all right.
Well, and just the other concern was you said that, I believe the amendment said that it would have to be a different company than the company offering. So like Field Turf offers, and you heard from one of the supporters, they offer crumb rubber and a host of alternatives. So, there's a concern there that you're actually, why couldn't the one company offer the different types of fill and the alternatives like they already do, instead of having it be a different company?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, Bob Giroux on behalf of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 36 in Southern California, 16 in Northern California, and the International. The painters and allied trades represent about 40 skilled crafts, one of which happens to be the floor layers. The floor layers lay these fields. They are apprenticed workers, trained, they're highly skilled. In fact, the Northern California Training Center, Mr. Wykowski, Senator Wykowski is in your district in San Leandro, and I encourage you and Senator Leno and Senator Hancock and Senator Hill and others to come visit and see the safety training that our floor layers obtain during the process. We actually support the study as well. I think by eliminating the moratorium in the bill with the amendments, but also eliminating the funding for the subsidy, you're in fact establishing a de facto moratorium for 2 years, especially in low-income school districts like perhaps Sanger and some of the other Central Valley school districts that aren't as privileged as schools like Saratoga High School and schools in Marin County and others where the tax base is higher. So it would be our hope that the study move forward, but the ban on the funding using the tire fee not be established during the next 2 years. So for those reasons, we oppose the bill as currently drafted.
Thank you.
And we're going to continue to work with Senator Hill and his staff, and they've been wonderful to work with so far.
Sir.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair and members, Ian Padilla with the Coalition for Adequate School Housing. We have an oppose unless amended position on the bill. We do support the study for all the reasons I think has been stated. But we were concerned about the moratorium. I think that's obvious. We think the amendments are better. No moratorium, but our districts are still concerned about some of the additional hoops that would be established. Again, we think it's better. With regard to the issue of alternative to crumb rubber, we represent school districts. We hope that they have all the options available to them. But some of the cost issues are significant. I think everyone knows here that school maintenance funding has been eliminated, essentially under the LCAP and so on. I won't play the violin there, but this is all to say that, particularly in this issue area, cost is a significant concern for schools. We're glad that this issue has been raised, and we'll continue to work with the author, others in the coalition, to find an appropriate solution. Thank you.
Sir.
Chair, members, my name is Enrique Roacho, and I represent the California Association of School Business Officials, CASBO. We have over 3,000 school business officials throughout California. And I would like to start by saying that CASBO definitely shares the concerns of Senator Hill regarding the health impacts of synthetic turf. Our initial letter does have an oppose unless amended position, and we thank Senator Hill for the amendments regarding the moratorium. Those were the specific provisions that we opposed in that bill. But I would like to say that as far as the administrative amendments for schools, we do view those amendments as problematic. And for that reason, we haven't opposed unless amended. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee, chair, and staff. Martha Alvarez on behalf of the San Diego Unified School District. We're the second largest district in California, 130,000 students, 180 school sites, and 49 charter schools. Our primary concern with the bill is not on the study. You heard from other testimonies today in support of the bill that they believe that, and a lot of anecdotal stories and comments on what they have experienced. We do not have a concern with the study. We think it's wise to have the state look into this issue on the health hazards that could be caused by the rubber turf. However, we are concerned with the administrative and additional requirements on school districts. Today is the first time that we hear the amendments that the senator is proposing regarding the additional bid, having an alternative company come out and provide additional recommendations. We have concerns about the, not just administratively, what it will mean for staff to have to conduct those additional bids, but also what it means for project delay. In San Diego Unified, I mentioned we have 180 school sites. We have between 25 and 30 projects that are currently in the pipeline. This bill begs the question, what would happen with those projects? Because we have a bond program that we have timelines that we have to meet in order to be able to use those local bond funds. So it's an issue about delay of projects, an issue about cost, and it's also an issue about contradicting the state's goal of trying to have districts and other public entities, homeowners, to use drought-resistant alternatives to grass fields. Lastly, I will just mention that we look forward to working with the senator. If this issue will still continue to affect school districts, we encourage the Rules Committee to have this bill redirected through the Education Committee because it is something that will significantly have a cost on districts. Thank you.
Sir.
Mr. Chair and committee members, my name is Terry Lavelle. I represent CRM Company of Compton, manufacturer of the largest crumb rubbers efforts in the Western Coast. 25 years ago, I was an advisor to Wesley Chesborough when the Integrated Waste Management Board first started, and I worked with him on tire issues. And that was a time when there were huge tire piles throughout California. Very few were being diverted from landfills and the like. After I left Wesley, I became the editor and publisher of California Tire Report, worked closely with the Integrated Waste Management Board, which eventually became Cal Recycle, And every step of the way reported on the development of various efforts to reduce tires in landfills and promote tire recycling. We're very strongly at the time opposed to the tire-derived fuel, but so there are a couple cement plants in California that have it. I can tell you without a doubt, every step of the way as they were developing their tire program, they were aware of all the reports that were coming out from Europe, from Canada, and from elsewhere in the United States, from public sector, independent, and they were very, very concerned about the ability of tire rubber in any way to harm children, to harm adults, and the like. And the way I don't think that Senator Hill means any harm, but it almost seems like that Cal Recycle has been indicted for ignoring that issue. They haven't. And I can tell you this, that we were strongly supportive of any report that would, or any study that will, fix the holes that seem to be popping up, and we're strongly supportive of Senator Hill's concerns about areas that may not have been studied enough. But the way that the amendments, the committee amendments are perceived in virtually every state in the country, in Canada and Europe, they're looking at California, they're looking at SB 847, and it seems that it's almost an indictment of crumb rubber by continuing that concern about making it more difficult for these fields to be put out, or the playgrounds. It just seems that it's sending the wrong message to all the communities that are looking at California. Everybody knows that there's an issue right now. NBC News, as well as there's 3 copycat bills right now, one in New York, one in Minnesota, and one just recently defeated in the state of Virginia, that dealt with the moratorium and dealt with the study. They're all looking at California right now. And I think unless this bill is defeated, it's going to be an indictment of crumb rubber ahead of time. And it's going to be hard enough to overcome the negative publicity down the line. And we urge a no vote.
Sir?
My name's Mike West. I represent the District Council 16 Painters and Allied Trades in Northern California. From an occupational health and safety standpoint, our organization is definitely interested in the study. And although I'm not aware of any spike in occupational health related disease, our floor layers that are installing this, we have 1,100 journeymen and nearly 200 apprentices that are trained to do this work. And I've not heard of any issue of an increased rate of occupational health and safety, disease, cancer, and whatnot. The amendments are also problematic in our opinion. I'm not aware of a contractor that uses exclusively non-crumb rubber materials for infill, and I'd be interested to hear about that. And so I'm urging a no vote in opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council, here for many of the same reasons that the previous speaker just illuminated. I'd like to acknowledge the proponents of this bill and the illnesses that they and their families have gone through, the diseases. Nobody has said anything about that. That's an important aspect of this, but we want to make sure that the study that is in the bill now is done properly. We support the study. We thank the senator for working with us, but we want to just remind the committee that there is a jobs impact, as just was illuminated by the previous speaker, and wanted to make sure that you all leave here today knowing that there is a situation there where jobs could be put at risk. So for those reasons, we have to oppose right now. Thank you.